Let's go back to the EU. I heard you saying that we have to balance between, in terms of fiscal adjustment, let's say, or financial policy, we have to balance between risk sharing and stability.
And sovereignty sharing.
Sovereignty sharing. I do understand what sovereignty sharing means. What does risk sharing mean for you?
Of course, there was a quite interesting interview from the German and the French finance minister about common issues and how work functions in Europe. And the outcome was a bit that in one sentence it was said, yes, Germany has a problem with risk sharing and France has a problem with sovereignty sharing. Of course, we know that we have to complete, for example, that we have to find an answer how to develop structural reforms in all countries, how to find a common fiscal policy, what President Draghi from the European Central Bank is always asking for, not to land the central bank alone in the rain and to let her act and then only criticizing her policy. This does not work. We have to find other available models. And this means, for example, solidarity. Yes, of course, the EU budget via additional facilities as we are discussing as well, under certain conditions, and also to have a more clear rule about the functioning of the Eurozone, to come away from intergovernmental cooperation to create a model where later we should act with the support of the International Monetary Fund. But finally, it was also a shame that we needed the International Monetary Fund. It was created not to help European countries.
I was supposed to ask you something else, but you give me an answer with the IMF. Do you think that somehow the IMF has to stay out at some point of what Europe does? I mean that I'm not referring only to Greece right now, but if you have to say united economy, then you have to create your own rules and your own mechanism. ESM is already on board. So do you think that countries like Germany or the Netherlands or the northern countries could survive without having in mind that we have IMF to monitor?
I think we need the expertise of the IMF. If you go to the Asian countries, there's also the creation of, let's say, a cooperation between Asian countries, but with cooperation of the International Monetary Fund. What we are suggesting is now that we want, in the long term, to develop the ESM into a European Monetary Fund, plus this fiscal capacity, we are talking additionally about it, to link it with conditions agreed in a legislative procedure. It has to do with democratic scrutiny. So, proposal from the Commission, arrangement between Council and European Parliament, financed this capacity from national contributions. We call it assigned revenues. This means the national parliaments are on board as well, because the question of ownership of the euro, it's national, because member states are the contributors, the contractors of the whole exercise. But we need, let's say, parliamentarization of the whole exercise and not the outsourcing of European Parliament and national parliaments. And then, of course, having this sort of readiness to help countries in a specific shock situation on top and to prepare something in good times, which is available in bad times, what we all did not do sufficiently. So to give a certain contribution, let's talk later about the levels, and everybody pays in. In bad times, we have specific countries in a shock situation, and over a longer cycle, it should be more or less budgetary neutral. This is the starting point to regain trust and confidence that things are working. That things are working like this. I believe that these country-specific recommendations are actually going very much into detail. We should concentrate on key elements as far as debt, as far as unemployment, as far as research and similar things is concerned, to define a roadmap via legislation. The rest is subsidiarity. To intervene into each budget line is just creating poison and will not help. I think this is one of the lessons we all can agree here. The main groups in European Parliament say in this direction. Therefore, let's develop a convergence code linked with the fulfillment of the convergence code, access to these funding, and instead of having a situation which is poisoning again, yet that you have, I do not know how many meetings of finance minister or meetings of the European Council itself. Normally, he shall not act in legislation, as the treaty says. To have a strong vice president of the Commission or finance minister on European level with the Treasury to monitor the Eurozone, to implement the agreed rules, common agreed rules, and with a more automatic procedure. And not every 6 months to come back to a political quarrel. I think this is not the best way how we should act it. So this is, I think, this question, yes, it's a bit risk sharing. Yes, it's also some sovereignty sharing. And therefore, as a first step, to start with those elements, which can be done without treaty changes until 2019 to show that we are ready to deliver. People want results. Technical debates are important, but they have to deliver results. And then to prepare the ground in case treaty changes, let's say for the European Monetary Fund, are needed. The adjustment of the treaty in a very limited format could be possible when we clean the treaty from the British exemptions.